Hi everybody, author Amy Ray here. Tonight I'm going to do a short reading of my newest children's book. It's the second in the Amy and Tara Adventure series, and it's called The People Upstairs. You can kind of see through it here with my green screen. So this is a far departure from what I usually write. Before I wrote my first poetry book, the end of last year. Up until then, I usually wrote realistic, gritty fiction about teenagers. I try to use my interest in psychology to tackle some tough issues. But then I thought, well, maybe it would be fun to write a series loosely inspired by my childhood adventures with my best friend Tara back then. And these books are set in the 80s. To be honest, I don't think I would know how to write for children and teens now. The world's just so different for me. So I usually set my things back in the 80s. But back then, we had a lot of outdoor adventures. In fact, everything that I did, that Tara and I did together, was an adventure. We could literally sit in an empty room and have an adventure in our minds because we both had really overactive imaginations. So, but those are the best people to have adventures with, because they're just so much fun and everything is bright and new and shiny to them. So it's just a lot of fun to be with people like that. So this particular book is actually sort of based a little bit on truth. Uh, I remember going to Tara's grandparents' house once, and she told me that there were people living upstairs in her grandparents' house, and they didn't know about it. And I'm like, really? And I was kind of like, skeptical. And then we heard all of these um, footsteps coming from upstairs, and I'm like, okay, you're right. And she said that a couple of other times she was there without me, she did see a frizzy-haired, wide-eyed girl in one of the parts of her grandparents' house, and then I guess she saw that same girl laying on a rock in the grass outside, and she thought she was dead. So, yeah, we did have a lot of adventures because we both had very overactive imaginations. So, I never did figure out who those people were in her grandparents' house, but I wrote a story about it. So, without further ado, I thought I would just read you the first few pages and the summary. Amy and Tara go to spend the day with Tara's grandparents in the nearby town of Sunflower Grove, on a mission to buy a detective kit. Amy talks Tara into walking to the downtown area to Uncle Farley's toy store. Now they just need a mystery. And my dedication to everyone who has ever supported my writing. This one's for you. Spring 1980. Hi, my name is Amy McRae, and I'm super excited. Guess why? Okay, I'll tell you. It's spring break, and today I'm going to spend the day with my best friend, Tara Flanagan. We're going to her grandparents' house for the day. They live in a little nearby town called Sunflower Grove. It's a neat little place that's real artsy-fartsy and full of hippies and fun shops. In case you don't know what a hippie is, I'll tell you. A hippie is a person who wears funky clothes and jewelry, usually cool old-timey stuff from way back in the 60s when our parents were alive. Is laid back all of the time, smiles a lot, and flashes a peace symbol. A lot of people think hippies are weird because some of them don't bathe very often and the women don't shave their legs or underarms, but usually they're really nice, down-to-earth people. There are a lot of artist types, musicians, painters, and authors, which is really cool because I want to be a writer when I grow up. During the summer, Sunflower Grove has this huge festival with live music, clowns, mimes, face painting, all kinds of booths with neat souvenirs to buy, yummy food from all over the world, and even a fortune teller. Last year, I wanted to ask the fortune teller if this year's 5th grade math would be easier, but my dad said that if I worked really hard, it would be easier, and that I didn't need to pay money to get that answer. Well, I can tell you one thing. My dad is not a fortune teller. I've worked extra hard this past year, and and math class has not been easier. He, of all people, should know that. I mean, he's spent countless hours so far this year trying to get me to understand my math assignments. During our study sessions, there's a lot of yelling. Him, a little bit of crying, me, and a lot of frustration. Both of us. But this year, I'm not playing around. I'm just going to go straight to the source and ask my magic 8 ball of 6th grade math is going to be easier in the fall, and if it's not, I'm going to find a tutor and pay them in milk tokens. A couple of years ago, at the summer festival, a man was sitting on the sidewalk drawing caricatures of people at $5 a pop. In case you don't know what a caricature is, I'll tell you, or I'll try to tell you. It's a drawing of a person that exaggerates one or more of their body parts. For instance, if you have a big nose, your nose will be drawn even bigger. I didn't know this when I begged my mom and dad to let me get my picture drawn. I thought it would be a nice picture of myself that I could give my parents for Christmas. Anyway, the man had me sit in a chair in front of him and asked me a lot of questions about myself as he drew. He asked me what my favorite color was and my favorite after-school sport or activity. I told him pink and tennis. Sorry, I need new glasses. He seemed pleased, and I was starting to get really excited to see the finished drawing. But he told me, no peeking. I figured he would draw this great action shot of me playing tennis in a pretty pink outfit. He was smiling really big when he finished, which made me smile even bigger. But when he turned the drawing around for me to see, my smile disappeared really fast. He had drawn me in pink playing tennis all right, but I was wearing this weird pantsuit that you would never play tennis in, and he drew me missing a tennis ball, all while I stood in a whole pile of missed tennis balls. My nose and ears were also huge. I looked like Dumbo holding a tennis racket. I tried not to pout for the rest of the day, but that dumb drawing cost me the whole $5 my parents had given me to spend at the festival. I hate wasting money. There are a lot of hiking trails in Sunflower Grove, though, and they're free. My parents and I go there at least twice a year and take a lot of cool pictures of waterfalls, flowers, birds, and other wildlife. One year we even saw a snake. My mom was not happy. She's terrified of snakes. To tell the truth, I am too. My dad said that the snake wasn't venomous, but I still wasn't taking a chance, and I gave it a lot of room as I walked around it. After all, it may not have been venomous, but its bite would still hurt. Sometimes Tara and I will go walking the trails together. We always end up telling ghost stories and scaring ourselves silly, like the legend of the ghost of Camp Chipmunk, a nearby summer camp that kids used to go to until it closed many years ago. Legend has it that a janitor slipped on some garbage in the mess hall one summer and died. Now his ghost roams the area looking for litter, and only after he cleans up all of the garbage in the area can his spirit rest in peace. I'm sure they will even give him a 7-mop salute when that happens. Until then, I'm always extra careful not to accidentally drop any of my litter when I'm in the area. One thing I don't need is Janitor Joe haunting me. There are a lot of neat shops in Sunflower Grove, too, like the shop that sells cool crystals and rocks for my rock collection at home, and the shop that sells jewelry made out of silverware and mood rings. On one trip, I bought a ring made out of a spoon and a mood ring. I was excited about both, but I was really excited to wear the mood ring. Unfortunately, my hands are always cold, no matter what the temperature is outside, so the ring never changed colors and stayed black. I wore it to school one day and let everyone take turns wearing it so that I could see it change colors. That is, until Sister Angelica Marie came over to investigate the crowd around me. She saw my ring and demanded that I take it off and put it in my pocket for the rest of the day. I asked her what was wrong with it, and she told me that it was too big and went against the school's dress code. This really stung because I love jewelry and usually have a ring on every finger, a necklace, a bracelet, and a pair of pierced earrings. But at St. Anthony's Catholic School, we are only allowed to wear one ring on either hand, one bracelet, one necklace, and one pair of earrings, and they all have to be dainty, which means almost too small to even see. So I usually just wear my ring that has my birthstone in it, ruby, matching birthstone earrings, and a plain gold chain necklace, and matching bracelet. A lot of the shops have lava lamps in them too. I love lava lamps. There's one at my grandparents' house that was left behind by one of my aunts when she got married and moved out, and it's so cool. When you plug it in, red blobs of hot candle wax float around inside the lamp. It really does look like lava, and it's so relaxing. Sometimes when I spend the night at my grandparents', I'll ask if they can bring the lamp into the bedroom so that I can watch it until I fall asleep. People in Sunflower Grove care a lot about important causes, too. Usually there is always a group of angry college students standing around holding signs and protesting some kind of injustice. They hand out pamphlets and yell at everyone who walks by. One day they were really angry because the makeup company wanted to put makeup on bunny rabbits. I wasn't sure why the makeup company wanted to put makeup on bunny rabbits, because personally I thought they would look really cute wearing a little blush, lipstick, and nail polish, but the girl handing out the pamphlet told me that the company wanted to try out the makeup on bunny rabbits before humans wore it, in order to see if it was safe or not, and that sometimes the makeup hurt the bunny rabbits or even worse. This made me angry too, so I promised the girl that when I was old enough to wear makeup, I would make sure that I bought it from a company that didn't make bunny rabbits wear it first. There's also a really neat chocolate shop in Sunflower Grove where you can take tours and even get a free sample. It reminds me of the chocolate room in the movie Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, except there isn't a river made of chocolate. There's about everything else you can think of made of chocolate, though. Every month they have a huge chocolate scene featured in the window of the shop to attract business. The unit is refrigerated so the chocolate won't melt. One of my past favorite displays was the Eiffel Tower in Paris, a beret, and a plate of croissants, all made of chocolate. The display is also now locked because several years ago, some kids opened the display door when the owners were in the back getting some more free samples and snuck in. It was a farm scene. The kids had licked as fast as their tongues would go, and by the time the owners came back up to the front, they had licked away the whole head of the cow. The owners left it that way for the rest of the month, and the headless cow scared the heck out of the little kids walking by. And that's when they put a padlock on that case. No more tours or free samples. My dad says that going to Sunflower Grove is like stepping back in time to the 1960s. He talks about something called Woodstock, which I guess was some kind of big music festival they held back in the 60s. He says that's when music was good. My parents are always saying that today's music is weird, but I've listened to a lot of their records from the 60s, and I don't think the 80s have anything on the 60s. My dad was even in a band back then, which is how he met my mom. She was a groupie. My dad says that he had really long hair back then, but I just can't imagine that because he keeps his hair super short now for work, and he freaks out if it gets more than like an inch long. One of the very best things about Sunflower Grove, though, is that Charlotte Davenport, or who I like to call Snotty Lottie, and her crew from school wouldn't be caught dead there. Charlotte claims that the girls and their mothers only go to New York, Chicago, or Beverly Hills to shop, and that shopping in any other city is considered low class to anyone who matters. I've never seen Charlotte wear a cowboy hat before, though, but apparently she's really into the Western look because she says that she goes to the Rodeo Drive in Beverly Hills at least a few times a year. Outings are always much better if I know that I won't have a chance in heck of seeing Charlotte and her cronies. Charlotte is the meanest and bossiest person that I've ever met, and her two sidekicks are almost as bad. Charlotte turns up her nose at Sunflower Grove, literally. She says the people there are weird and they smell like something called patchouli. I don't know what that is, but the boys at St. Anthony's are weird and smelly too, especially when they burp in our faces and make us guess what they had for lunch. Gross. But Charlotte practically drools all over herself when she sees Johnny Rogers, and he's probably the weirdest and smelliest of them all. My mom drops me off at Tara's house, and then Tara's mom, Dad, younger brother Toby, and I head to Sunflower Grove. Tara and I are going to play while Tara's mom helps Tara's grandma plant flowers, and Tara's dad and Toby paint outside while her grandpa supervises. I'm a little disappointed that we're not taking Lady to the Sunflower Grove. Lady is Tara's mom's cool red Volkswagen convertible that looks like a ladybug, but we can still make the trip fun since it takes a little while to get to Sunflower Grove. On our way there, Toby turns around in his seat and makes funny faces at us. Tara and I make funny faces back, and then we play the alphabet game, where we have to find each letter of the alphabet in order by looking at signs that we pass by and then the one who finds Z first gets to make a wish. I win with Z from the Lazy Inn motel sign, so I wish that today will be the best day ever. We get to Tara's grandparents' house right after I make my wish. The house looks like a giant real-life gingerbread doll house. It's brown with white trim, and at Christmas, Tara's grandparents string candy cane lights on. I'm sorry, I keep losing my place when I look up. Candy cane lights on, and it covers the roof with fake snow. Parents bring their kids from all over to see it and take pictures. Although I love gingerbread houses and doll houses, I've had bad experiences with both. First, a couple of years ago, I got a big wooden dollhouse for Christmas. It was unfinished, so I started to buy things for it, piece by piece, with my allowance every week. First, I bought a small doll family set that had a mom, dad, son, daughter, and grandma and grandpa in it. Then I bought some sky blue paint for the outside of the house, a few sheets of pink wallpaper with teddy bears on it for the nursery, a miniature glass Tiffany lamp that really plugs in and lights up, and my very favorite piece, a miniature goldfish bowl with a tiny goldfish in it. The water is made out of epoxy glue and looks like real water, and the goldfish is made out of orange clay and looks like a real goldfish. My parents also let me subscribe to the Miniature of the Month company too, so that it could furnish my house faster. Each month I would get a kit in the mail. The kit contained everything you needed to put together the piece of the month: wood, varnish, paint, etc. My dad built 3 kits: a bed with a mattress and 2 pillows, a dresser with tiny brass handles, and a dining room table with 4 little chairs. It took him a ton of hours to put them all together, and during that time I heard a lot of new words that I had never heard before and that I'm not allowed to repeat. My dad did an amazing job though, and each piece turned out really gorgeous. Unfortunately, I took them out of my dollhouse one night to play with them on my bed, and instead of putting them back into the dollhouse, which sits up on top of my dresser and far out of my dog's reach, I set them on the floor next to my bed. And you guessed it, my dog Frisbee got a hold of each piece and used them as chew toys. Now there are teeth marks on every single piece. The dining room table is missing 1 leg, and each chair is missing at least 1 leg. So they all sort of tip over when I set them down. My dad was furious. He told me that if I couldn't keep the furniture out of the dog's reach, he wasn't going to put any more pieces together. So, ever since then, my dollhouse has been moved to the floor in the utility room with the mop, broom, and other cleaning supplies. It's probably a good place for it, though, because the house could really use a good cleaning. There are about 10 layers of dust on the roof that make it look snow-covered year-round, which is great at Christmas, and a family of spiders have built several webs inside the house and have moved into it. Truthfully, I'm glad something is getting use out of the dollhouse, and jokingly told my dad that I could put the broken pieces of furniture back in the house for the spiders to use, but he was not amused. And that brings me to what is now referred to as the gingerbread house disaster. I had always wanted to make a gingerbread house and put it together for Christmas, so I begged my mom to help me make one a couple of years ago. She said there was no way we were going to make it from scratch because it would take too much time and she had lots of shopping to do, so she found a kit at the store. And just like the Miniature of the Month kit, the Gingerbread House Kit had everything that you needed to make a gingerbread house. The gingerbread pieces for the roof and walls, icing, gumdrops, candy canes, you name it. So we got to work trying to get the walls and roof to stick together using the icing as glue. My dad kept telling us that we weren't constructing it right and that the walls and roof wouldn't stay put. My dad is super handy and can build just about anything, but this was my mom's and my project, so we shooed him out of the kitchen. Unfortunately, he'd been right. As soon as we let go of the pieces, the roof caved in and the walls fell down. So what did we do? We ate the house for dessert that night, piece by piece. I have to say, though, the thought of eating gingerbread is a lot better than the actual eating of it. I mean, I really like bread, and I think the gingerbread candles they burn in the stores around Christmas time smelled really yummy, so I assumed I would like gingerbread. But I can tell you that real gingerbread tastes nothing like bread or those yummy candles in the store. And that's all I'm going to read. You can get my book for Kindle and in paperback on Amazon or Higher Ground Books and Media. Thanks for watching.